Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to Adobe Live. My name is Terry White, Worldwide Photography Evangelist here at Adobe. It's my pleasure to be streaming to you live once again, and we are happy to be back for another Masterclass Friday. So with that said, let's get through the usual housekeeping rules. Number one, what is Masterclass Friday? It is the Friday of the week, the only Friday of the week, I believe, where the Adobe Evangelists get to share their various disciplines from photography to graphic design to UI UX design to motion and audio and to digital painting and drawing. So you'll see each one of us with some daily creative challenges sprinkled in between. And that's what Friday's all about. If you're watching this on Adobe Live, awesome. That's where the main chat is. That's where I see General Kenobi, and I see Steve, and I see Jan, and I see Craig, and I see Cody Bear, our moderator, and Frank, and Oliver, and John, and more people popping in. And I also see some people on other channels like Facebook, where Franco is, and LinkedIn, where Manikandan is. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, but no disrespect. And I'm just bad at pronouncing names. And John is there also on LinkedIn. So for those of you who are joining us from various platforms, you can hang out wherever you're watching. You can hang out on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you like to watch this. But if you want to participate in the main chat, I have both chats up, but the main chat that I'll be participating in is the one over on Adobe Live. So if you have something you want to say, something you want to really get answered, head over to b.net/Adobe Live, log in with your Adobe ID, which is free to create if you don't already have one, and you will be able to just participate in that chat as well. I'll try and keep an eye on both. I've been pretty good at both, but if I missed your question, it's just because I missed it. It wasn't because I wasn't trying to answer it. All right, so with that said, what are we doing today? Today is that once in a month, once every couple of months, I do how I would edit your photos. So this will be 100% not my photos. These will be photos that you submitted. So I put a link up on social media, usually the Monday or Tuesday before the stream. And I think this week it was Tuesday. And anyway, people can submit their images via Dropbox. Now that people are saying, oh, well, let me submit one now. It's too late. That ended yesterday evening. So if you didn't get it in this time, you got to get it in before the deadline next time, because I can't go keep looking for new images while I'm editing. So I've already got the submissions for this week. This week, we're going to take a look at people's submissions that we got. We got a lot of, I would say probably this week of all the time I've been doing this for now, probably about a year. These were some of the best ones. Like, there wasn't one, I don't think there were any where I really just cringed and said, oh my God, what is this? But for the most part, these are really good submissions this week. So I'm going to pull in a couple that I didn't get to from the last couple submissions. But for the most part, everything you guys submitted this week was good content, good material to edit. So that's what we're going to be doing today for the next 51 minutes. All right, so with that said, let's put that away. Let's go ahead and pop over to my laptop. And there we are. I have a special Lightroom catalog that I created just for this. So this doesn't have any of my photography in it. It's only your submissions from the various months that we've done this. And like I said, I keep a collection to be edited. And those are the ones I throw the new ones in. And also I'll drag some of the ones up that I didn't get a chance to do last time, just so we get people's submissions in. I won't ever get to all the photos because you always submit more photos than I have time to edit. Also, if you submitted multiple photos, I probably won't edit every single one you submitted. I'll do one, maybe two, but that'll be about it. All right, so let's go ahead and dive right in no particular order. And again, I'm not keeping track of who submitted what. And this is not really a critique, but there are a couple instances where I might say, oh, next time don't do this, or next time do that. But it's for the most part just editing what you submitted. All right, so let's start with this photo. Let's go full screen on it. I think I recognize this car, or at least I've been meaning to get to this ever since I moved to Atlanta. There is a car, like an old car museum that's out in the woods like this. here in Georgia, and I've never gotten there because it's like, I don't know, hour or so away, or hour, maybe 2 hours away from driving here. But anyway, I've always wanted to go photograph it. I've just never gotten to do it yet. This looks like that kind. This looks exactly like it would be in that museum. It's kind of an old, rusted out, beat up. Looks like it crashed into that tree, so that might be why it's still there. But anyway, in the museum, the cars are a little bit better condition. But anyway, here we are. We have this old rustic picture, and obviously the car is the subject. So there's not really a ton I would do to this photo. This photo looks like I would expect this to look. I'm not going to retouch the car. The car is supposed to look like that. So let me go over just a couple quick things I might do. So I would head over to the develop module with this. And like I said, this particular car looks fine. Like there's nothing wrong with your photo, in other words. So I might pop over to do the standard things I always do. So I might pop over to the profile, since you did give me a raw image, and I might set that to Adobe Landscape just to make the colors a little bit more vibrant, and it did that. I might pop over to lens corrections to see if you enabled the lens correction profiles, which you had not. So you can see what happened the minute I did that. Look at the edges of the trees on the left and the right hand side. When you enable this lens profile correction, what it does is it looks inside the metadata or EXIF data of the image and sees if it knows what camera and lens shot it. If it knows, if it can see it, then and it has a profile for it, then it will do lens correction based on that combination, based on the camera and the lens. Even if it's a third-party lens, it puts those two together and says, I'm going to correct for that. So look at the left and right edges when I turn this on. See how they got less curved? The entire image got less curved when I did that. So again, just a couple, you wouldn't have noticed it had I not shown it to you. But I always like to have that lens correction done. It also takes any warping out of the car itself, because I can see the hood, or not the hood, but the top of the car come down a little bit. So it was a little skewed, a little bent, a little curved by the lens, but that's okay. And then the next thing I would do is I would come back here and I would click auto tone, because again, I'm not unhappy with the toning that we got, but I would like to see what Lightroom thinks it needs to do to it. I may agree, I may not agree. Let's go ahead and hit auto. And I blinked. I didn't even see what it did. Let me undo. Okay, so it made it a little bit more contrasty. I'm okay with that, yeah. Now, just from a composition standpoint, again, nothing wrong. I could close this and be happy and be done with it. But the only other thing I might want to do, and again, this is just me being picky, is I like, oh, someone's saying my Lightroom's blurry. Hang on, let me look. Shouldn't be. But let's go look. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, it is, because it's not on the right resolution. Thank you for letting me know. All right, that should improve things drastically. Sorry about that, folks. I played with some settings earlier and forgot to put that back on. So now you should see Lightroom the way it's supposed to look. Okay, thanks, Roger, for letting me know. The rest of you are just going to sit there and watch it be blurry, I guess. Kidding. Thanks, Roger, for letting me know. Okay, so, and someone said it could be a Volvo. I don't know. So, Roger, let me know if that fixed it. All right, next up, let's go ahead and take a look at, the one thing I was going to say. So the one thing, the right panel is blurred. Well, it just might not have gotten fixed yet, but it should catch up. All right, yeah, that shouldn't handle any other particular, like, shouldn't be one side's blurry, one side's not. Just that side needs to refresh. Anyway, let's go ahead and the one more thing. The one more thing that I would say is that the only other thing I would say from a composition standpoint is that you compose this where the car is kind of almost, but not quite, in the middle of the frame. And again, it doesn't hurt me by looking at it that way. The only other thing that's kind of a distraction is whatever this rock and these branches are in the foreground. So, since you've got it kind of composed almost in the middle, not quite, it is good, it is okay, I might hit the crop tool, and I might go in and I might just crop up a little bit that way. just to kind of bring the car more to the side and more up front and getting rid of that distraction in the foreground. That's it. Like, and again, that's a nitpicky thing. Did it need to do that? No. But I'm, you know, that's it. Like, your photo's great. All right, so let's move on. Next one, my favorite kind of things when we see these kind of rustic old pictures that look like they have some kind of stain on the front of it. I won't say what that looks like. But anyway, when you got these pictures that look like they were from, you know, someone's old photo album and you kind of pulled it out. But let's go ahead and take a look at how we can take care of that. So what I would do is, first and foremost, this is a black and white photo that looks faded, or it might have been color at one point, but it's like the color's completely gone. It's kind of like all faded out. So what I would do, when John's asking a question about that other photo, Terry, would you remove some of the other objects in the ground, dead branches, whatever? Let's go back to that photo real quick and take a look, since you asked. Nah. I mean, you could. Okay, if I were going to start really being picky, I'd take that one out, maybe a few of these other ones right here in the foreground. I would leave this big one here. But again, it's not bothering me. You could take this one out in front of the old headlight. Again, that'd be nitpicking. It's okay. So yes, you could, and it would be okay to do that. But they weren't so distracting that it would bother me. Okay, next up, let's go back to this photo. So what I would do on this photo is, first and foremost, since I'm not going to get the original color back, if it were color, I can't even tell. So let's go ahead and just make it a black and white. Let's go ahead and go to black and white and just make it a black and white. And you can use, you can browse the profiles and you can hover over the various black and whites of this to kind of see what that would look like. Some are going to be more contrasted than others. I kind of like BNW05, so let's go ahead and choose that one. Okay, next up, technical photo term is smutched. All right, so anyway, we got some scratches in the photo. We've got this stain, but that's kind of going to be it from a Lightroom perspective. Like, that's kind of all I'm going to do. I could hit auto, see what that does to it. Didn't do much. I'm probably not going to get much of a lens correction because this is not, well, let's see. I don't know how you scanned or brought this in. Yeah, it doesn't detect anything, so it probably wasn't photographed. It might have been an old scan. Or if it was photographed, it lost that EXIF data along the way. But now that I've got that, let's go ahead and edit it in Photoshop. So I can right-click on this, and I can choose Edit in Photoshop. And yes, I want to always edit with a copy, so that way I'm not going to ever mess up the original. And now that I've done that, that's why I don't usually do a duplicate layer of the background, because I already have an original, but I'll do it for you. And now let's go ahead and take care of some of the obvious things. I'd go in, grab my, my healing brush, and I would go ahead and just kind of heal some of this obvious stuff out of it. Like, I'm not going to spend all day on this. You could if it's your photo. And obviously, let's get rid of some of the schmutz, as someone called it. There we go. That looks a lot better. And then let's get rid of that scratch. So I'm just using that spot healing tool. I'm on my Wacom Cintiq. I'm just using my brush to go ahead and kind of brush some of the stuff out. And again, you could take your time and you would go in, you would go get all this little stuff out of the photo. I'm not going to take that time today because I've got a lot of other photos to get to. But what I'm just showing you is, again, the process that I would start. So I'm starting the process, although I won't get a chance to finish it today. Okay, so now that let's say you would just keep doing that until you got them all. The next thing I would oh, there's one more on his head there. The next thing I would love to see is Photoshop's new neural filter for colorization. Take a look at this. So I'll make them look like the Beatles. All right, so let's go into the filter menu. Let's come down to neural filter. And these neural filters are great. Some of them are in beta, so you're just basically experimenting. Some of these are a little bit further along, like colorize. I'm just going to go ahead and turn it on. And it's gotten me off to a much better start than I would have if I had to colorize this manually. Now, I think the contrast is still off, but that's not a colorization thing. And the only thing I see that's way off as far as the color is concerned, a couple of places, this guy's arm looks like it's about to, looks like he's from The Walking Dead and his arm turned green. And same thing on his face. His face kind of turned green. But other than that, I mean, it looks pretty good. Now, the one thing I wish the colorized neural filter team would do is I want to fix that green color. So I want to use the same color as his arm because that's what color it should be. That pink part of his arm up here, or this guy's hand, that's probably, or even his hand, that's what color it should be. So if I go in and I click on his arm, that will bring up a color picker. See if I can grab it and pull it over. That'll bring up a color picker, but then I gotta figure out and guess what color it should be, as opposed to giving me an eyedropper. If I had an eyedropper and I can click, and I kind of understand that it's not giving me an eyedropper because the color's not really there yet, but I can see it, so it is there. I wish the team would just give me an eyedropper. But anyway, I'm just gonna try and fake it as close as I can. Not that pink, not that white. I'm just going to kind of pull this over here and try and get this color to look kind of the same, but I'm eyeballing it and I'm guessing. I'm going to say something in that ballpark. I'm wrong, but you know, something around there. It's not going to be perfect, but let's say something around that. When I click OK, that will change. Yeah, see, it's not pink enough. It kind of just made his arm more black and white. But anyway, I can go ahead, I can fix that after the fact. So same thing on this guy's face. I just come over here and click on his face, and it should fix his face as well because it's using the same color. So it took that green out of it, but it didn't put enough of the skin tone back in. Is there a way to diminish the glare on the left side? You mean the right side? You talk about this glare, it's on my right side. All right, yeah, we can do all of that, but we wouldn't do it here. So let's go ahead and click OK now. And that will give us a new colorization layer. So again, that's what I meant by I wasn't too worried about it because I could always come back to this layer. Now I could sample it. Now I could do other things with it, so forth and so on. But I'm going to take all of this, and I'm just going to go ahead and composite it to a new layer above. So I'm going to do Command, Option, or PC, Control, Alt, Shift, E. That will give me a new layer on top of everything else that's a composite of everything we've done so far. So now I'm working on that composite. And what I'm about to do next, I could either do it here in Photoshop, or I could do it back when I get back to Lightroom. It's up to me. Yep, James is right. Yep, an eyedropper would be a great help because then I can just sample the right color. I wouldn't be guessing. All right, anyway, let's go into the filter menu. And again, this is what I meant by you could do it in either place. Let's go back to Camera Raw filter. And let's go into the basic panel. And let's come down to exposure. Let's pull down the exposure a little bit more for everything. And then we're going to go to masking. And we're going to go to the, I'm going to do a linear gradient. I'm just going to pull in from this side. This too overexposed. Just going to pull, oh, sorry, too far over. Let's pull in that way. Whoa, 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 whoa. Undo. Did I pick the wrong one? Must have hit a radio by mistake. So I'm going to pull over. There we go. Something like that. And then just bring down exposure on that side a little bit more to kind of blend that in to make it look more like the right side as well. And I can keep pulling this over as far as I need it to go. There we go. And cool. So what I would then do next is I would need to colorize his peace sign because it didn't get colorized, and I would need to fix his arm a little bit more. So I might grab the, I might grab my eyedropper. I might sample his skin tone, and then I might go into either the color replacement brush or the regular brush, either one, and set the regular brush to color. Make it smaller, and just paint his skin tone back into that spot. So that's how, when I said I could fix it manually after the fact, I could do it that way. I got a little crazy there. Let's undo. Make the brush a little smaller. And let's use the actual stylus to do it better. So when you set your brush to color mode, what you're telling it to do, and you can do that on a new layer so that way you can change the opacity or whatever. What you're telling it to do, and this is probably too pink for his hand, but what you're telling it to do is only paint the midtones. So leave the shadows, leave the highlights, and only paint the midtones when you do that. So you can zoom in. I'm not going to, because again, I'm not trying to make this a finished piece. But those are the areas I would pay attention to. Now, when I colorize it, that also exposed this big scratch right here. So I could then say, okay, now that I can see that scratch, go back to my spot healing brush and see if I can blend that in a little bit better. Same thing on his forehead, and just kind of take that scratch right out of it. All right, you can add some more contrast to this. You can do lots more things to kind of build it back up, but there you go. All right, let's go ahead and save this. And let's close it and head back. And this is our before, so this is where we started. And that's not even where we started. Let's really go to where we started. Let's reset it. That's where we started. So that's where we started. And that's where we got in just a few minutes. That's without not a ton of work. You could, of course, go in and do a ton of work on this pixel by pixel and get it perfect, but you're off to a good start with just those things. Yes, Command-Option-Shift-E or Control-Alt-Shift-E will merge visible layers into a new layer. That's it. Great. All right, next up. I love a good portrait, and here's one from, actually, this was a submission from before, but they resubmitted it because I noticed here she is from before. I just hadn't gotten to her yet, so they cropped it and resubmitted it. So thanks for bringing it back up to the top. That got you your edit for today. So let's go in. First of all, let's take a look at this. Let's head to develop. They did give me a raw, so I'm going to set it to Adobe Portrait. Not going to make a huge difference in this case. Let's go check our lens correction. Enable profile. Yep. See how it, again, is kind of straightening the image out, getting rid of some of the edge vignetting. It also shows me what camera and lens that was shot with, but don't need to know that. Let's go ahead and hit auto tone, and that really adjusts the contrast. Let's go ahead and undo that. So see how this is kind of all blending in. It's kind of all the same, but as soon as I hit auto, that kind of really brings out the contrast in this photo. It may be too much. You can always tone it back down. It brought the contrast up by 21. That may be a little too much. You can always go back down if you don't like it. And also brought the highlights way down. I might bring those back up just a little bit more. Shadows is what really it brought up to bring out that contrast. And again, you can always tone it back to where you want it. Okay. I'll take my saturation down to 0. Cool. All right, now let's go in and take a look and see if there's any, not that far. Let's go ahead and take a quick look and see if there's any blemishes, like there's a stray hair here, a couple stray hairs here and there. So again, that's the kind of work for Photoshop. So let's go ahead and head over to Photoshop with a Command E, PC, Control E. Yes, she does have fiery eyes. All right, let's go ahead and just pull down here. Okay, so again, this is literally nitpicking stuff. There's nothing wrong with her. But if you're going to use this as a portrait, I'd probably get rid of some of these stray hairs that are covering parts. In other words, they're not adding to the story. It's just, if you'd have taken a brush or just had her, wipe the hair off her face, then it'd be gone. So just kind of taking care of some of those things. And again, the stray hair is coming off the sides. You can determine how much of that you'll tolerate. I'll leave some, but I usually won't leave a ton. And again, just getting rid of a lot of that stray hair. And again, that's all time. All right, so now I can see where some of the hair got taken away. It's kind of like made the skin a little more contrasty, or left like a light spot, no spots. Now, and one more here. Okay, someone did mention they said she has fiery eyes. Well, I love eyes. I think eyes are one of the most, the best parts of a portrait, because they're all unique. They're all, they kind of give the identity of that person. So I really like the eyes to stand out. So in that case, I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to go in and I'm going to go ahead and grab the sharpen tool, and let's bring down the brush size using my left bracket key. I'm just going to go ahead and sharpen just a little bit. So this is, I think I undid it all. Hang on, let's edit. I just want to undo it so I can show it to you again. Undo. There we go. Okay, so I undid all the sharpening. Let's duplicate that layer so you can see it before and after. Now let's go ahead and do sharpening again. And it doesn't look like you're doing a ton because it's subtle, but once you've done it and then you see the before and after, that's after. Here, let me zoom in. So it just really adds the sharpening to the pupil. You can really see it there. Okay, so that's adding a little sharpening to it. Next thing I'm going to do is go back to the eyes again. And these dark spots under the eyes are usually caused by just not having the eyes lit. So like not lighting that part of the portrait. Especially when you do things outside, especially when you're using natural light, you're going to get this a lot. And if they're shooting where the light's above and their actual their eyebrows or whatever is causing shadows underneath, that could happen as well. I don't want to remove them completely because that looks unnatural, but I do want to reduce them. So first and foremost, I see a hair. Let's get rid of that hair first. All right, now that I got rid of that hair and whatever that is, now let's go ahead and show you how I would reduce it. I've shown this before, but I would take the patch tool and I would go ahead and remove it completely first. So just taking the patch tool, taking this dark area under the eye, I'm going to make it look unnatural for a second. I'm just going to completely drag it down and remove it. Now, when I remove it, a lot of people are like, oh man, that looks so much better. It looks great. And you see this in fashion all the time. Like they will leave it just like that, where there's no darkness under the eyes. The eyes look perfect. And again, it depends on your client. But I don't like to leave it like that. I think that it does look unnatural because we all have some shadow, some darkness under the eyes. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my, while that selection, so here's the key part. Once you patch and move the selection, don't deselect. Because if you deselect, then you eliminate this feature. If you try and do something else, you eliminate this feature. You have to do it immediately after you do the patch while it's still selected. You're going to head over to your edit menu and you're going to come down to fade patch selection, or keyboard Command Shift F. That will bring up a dialog box like this one. And then what this does is it basically puts undo on a slider. So I can bring back all the way back to where the darkness was there completely, or dial it out a little at a time. So I could say, oh, that's more natural, meaning she still has something under her eye. It's just not as dark. So that way you can, again, set your preference of whatever the number is. In my case, I think 58 is about right. Click OK, deselect, and now I've gone from that to this. So again, not removing it completely, but just reducing it. So a lot of retouching is not making someone look 40 years or 30 years or 20 years or 10 years younger. It's a matter of just making them look more like you are used to seeing them. Like, in other words, how they look in real life. You don't look at someone and say, oh my God, look at those. You shouldn't look at someone and say, oh my God, look at all that darkness under their eye. All right, so anyway, let's get rid of a couple of these hairs first. Because with the hairs out of the way, then it won't patch the hair back into that spot. All right. There we go. And now we're going to go ahead and make that selection. And we'll bring it down here and patch. And again, unnatural, but that's okay. Command-Shift-F brings up the fade. Control-Shift-F on Windows. Then I can dial it down. So I was at 58 on the other eye. I can go to the same number, or they don't have to be the same, because one eye might be darker than the other. One eye might be, you know, they might not have the same amount of need. So adjust the numbers to what looks best to you. All right, so again, the before, the after, and not a huge difference when you zoom out, but it is. So it's just taking that extra amount of darkness away, but still keeping it looking natural. Someone says she has an eyebrow gap that's bothering them. Are you referring to this stuff over here? Well, I'm going to show you a couple of techniques for eyebrows then. So only because you said it. Let's go ahead. First of all, let's get rid of some of the stray hairs. All right, we're just going to patch those out. All right, so if you're talking about the little where there should be hair, like the little gaps there, we don't want to patch too far in, so we just want to fill that in. Basically, we can either clone it in, we can patch it in. There's a million ways to fill it in. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab it and just come over and patch it in. There we go. Same thing over here. Same thing over here. All right. Okay, now and let's get rid of whatever this pimple is. There we go. Now, her eyebrows look fairly good to me, but if you needed them to be perfectly straight across the top, the bottom, the side, wherever, usually the bottom's fine, it's usually the top or the sides, then what you could do, and this is an old trick, you can make a selection right above the eyebrow. Oh, hang on, I got too close. Right above the eyebrow, just a big selection above it. Now we're going to feather that selection. Select, modify, feather, and the amount will be based on the resolution. There is no use this number every time. If it's a high resolution image, you're going to use a higher number. If it's a lower resolution number, you're going to use a lower number. I'm just going to start with 10 because I don't know what the resolution of this photo is. So let's do, I think it was it was a raw file, so we can go a little higher. Let's go to maybe 15. So let's click OK. And now that just softened that selection. Now we're going to put that skin that we just selected on its own layer. So I'm just going to do Command J on Mac, PC Control J. So basically we ended up with just that little selection above her eye. Now we don't want to feather it too soft. But we don't want it to be a hard edge either. So just slight amount of feathering. So now I'm just going to go ahead and grab my move tool and just move that skin down. And we're just basically going to use that skin. So it's too soft, I can see it already. But we're just going to use that skin to shave the eyebrow just a little bit. So let's undo that. Let's delete it. Actually, no, let's undo, 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 undo the feather. That should take us back to the, yep, that undid the feather. Let's do the feather again, just not as much. So select, modify, feather, and instead of 15, we can probably go, let's do half of that. Let's do 8. So now, Command J, put it on its own layer, use the move tool, and as I move it down, we get a much harder edge. There we go. So it just shaves it cleaner. That's it. So now you can put that down, Command E, merges it down to the layer below, and then when you do the other side the same way. You can't do them both at the same time because when you move one, it's going to move the other one in a weird way. So you have to do them separately. Let's go ahead and grab our either, you know, lasso, or in this case, I'm just using the patch tool because it's handy, but you could absolutely use the lasso as well. And if your selection is not good, then your shaving is not going to be good either. So let's go again to select, modify, feather. Oh, I missed it. Select, modify, feather, 8. Command J, move tool, move it down. There we go. Perfect. All right. Blend it in, and this is the before. Big difference now. That's the after. Before, after. All right. She's looking good. She's already looking good. We just made her look better. All right, next up, I usually do, if I'm going to do, don't forget to tell her to repeat all of this on her next makeup. I don't know her, so I can't tell her anything. Anyway, let's go ahead and do one more thing. Just a little dodge and burn technique I use because it just adds more sculpture, more like depth to the face. So let's go ahead and grab I have an action set up for it, but basically all the action does, I click dodge and burn, it does 3 things. It duplicates the layer. It sets the blend mode of that layer to luminosity, and it switches to the burn tool. 3 things. I just do it as an action so I don't have to do those 3 things manually every single time. Now that I've got this burn tool on a separate layer with luminosity as the blend mode, I'm just going to make my brush a little bit bigger. It's nice and soft brush. I'm just going to go around the edges of her hairline just to kind of darken that whole area. So the areas, basically what you're doing with the burn tool is the areas that are dark or should be dark. I'm even doing her hair. You're making it a little darker. And then you do the opposite with the dodge tool. So the burn tool, we're just burning in areas that should be. And it looks like I'm not doing a whole lot, but trust me, it is. Then we switch to the dodge tool and do the opposite. So the eye sockets, I want it to be a little bit brighter. We can do her forehead a little bit brighter, her nose, her cheeks, her chin, her neck, or anything that should be brighter. Highlights in the hair. So those areas that should be brighter, we're going to make a little bit, or those areas that are bright, we're going to make a little bit brighter. Now again, doesn't look like I did a whole lot. Let's see the before and the after. It just adds that little bit of contrast and depth to the image, and it makes a big difference. It's subtle, but it makes a big difference. All right, we can go ahead and merge that down. Let's Rob, stick to Dan Margulis. Like, I don't have a landing point when it comes to skin tones. I just kind of know it when I see it. But if you've got techniques from Dan Margulis is awesome. Use Dan Margulis. Exposure and the burn tool set to 50%. Is that standard setting use? Yeah, the dodge and burn tool are probably set at 50%. The defaults, I just leave them at the defaults. I don't usually change them because I'm using a brush with pressure. So if I need a little lighter, a stylus with pressure, then I just don't press as hard. So a lot of the numbers I don't worry about changing because I'm controlling it with pressure. All right, so let's go ahead and save that. And close it. And head back to Lightroom Classic, and here's our original. And here's and we can zoom out. Here's our original, here's our finished. And again, you got a lot more stray hairs you can do. You can add more contrast. I would like, the only thing that's really bugging me now is just more of the stray hair. So I would spend more time in Photoshop getting rid of that. Everything else looks good. Okay, next up, you have this skier. And there looks like they're, I don't know, cross country. I'm not a skier, so I don't know. So what would I do? This photo looks pretty good as is, but what would I do? I would finish it. So I would go into, it's a raw file, so I do the same things we've been doing. Let's go ahead and make it landscape. There we go. Adds a little bit of that contrast to it. Let's go into our lens correction, see if we get one. Yep, we did. Brightened it up a little bit. Let's go and hit auto. Yeah, auto, just add a little bit of contrast to it. I'm good with that. And now the only other thing that you have to ask yourself is what's important to you in this photo. Obviously, it's a skier. You've got the skier dead center. And we want to give them room to ski, so we don't want to crop too much or move away. But then you start asking yourself about the distractions. We got a guy kind of sitting, we got one or two people kind of sitting there looking at their phones. You've got, I don't know, is that a snow machine? I have no idea what that is, but you got this machine here. You got this pole and this here, and you got these little branches sticking up. So again, all of that to me is taking away from your subject. So at this point, you could start cropping. You could just simply crop that away, but then I think that makes the image a little too tight on that side. So sometimes the easy method isn't the best method. So let's go in. So snow mixer, someone said. All right, so let's go in, edit this in Photoshop, and let's just start immediately getting rid of some of those things that bother me. So I would go in, make my brush a lot bigger. There we go. Like having that those little branches sticking up out of the snow to me doesn't add anything to it. It just makes me feel like, wasn't there enough snow? All right, so we got that. I don't know what this red post is, but because I don't know what it is, that means I'm going to keep looking at it, trying to figure it out. Let's just get rid of it. Same thing with whatever this is. Just get rid of it. And these people, they're really adding nothing to the story. So they got to go too. Unless they're your friends. Like if you say, oh, no, they need to be there, then you keep them there. But I don't know the story behind this photo, so they're adding nothing to it. Now you have to ask yourself, is the snow mixer important? If the snow mixer is important, leave it. If it's not important, get rid of it. That's totally up to you. To me, it's not important. So I'm going to go ahead and, oh wait, hang on, hold on. There's some kind of cord or something coming off of it. Let's get rid of that cord. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, by the way. There we go. Oh yeah, there's some kind of cord going both sides, or a fence, or whatever this red thing is. So, if the snow mixer stays, then leave it. If it doesn't need to stay, then I would get rid of it. So how would I get rid of it? I would take a shot at getting rid of it with, I would, oh my God, remove the snow, just leave the skier. Well, you could do that, but I'm not sure why you would. I'm going to let Photoshop take a shot at it with content aware fill first. So I just made a big giant selection around it. I'm going to hit my delete key, which will bring up my fill on the other display. Let's bring it over. And now I'm going to just go ahead and leave it on content aware and click OK and see what happens. And not so good. It's okay, but it's not great. All right, so the problem is that tree. Like we could leave it like that. Hang on. We could leave that and just fix it. So it's not a great content aware, but it's not unusable. I was worried about the tree not coming all the way down, but who says it needs to? We're changing it anyway. There we go. Need to fix it a little bit more. Get rid of some of the repeating patterns. And I'm just going to go ahead and grab my clone stamp tool. This clone stamp's just going to do a better job in this case. There we go. Beautiful. Oh, wait. We got a weird looking edge over here. Weird looking edge. Duplicate pattern. All right. There we go. Zoom out. And that would be our finished picture. You can go clean that edge up a little bit more, but now I've got a picture that I like because no matter what, your eye keeps going back to the subject because there's nothing else to look at. There's nothing else to concentrate on. There's nothing else to say, what's that? Who are they? Why are they sitting there on their phones? What's the machine do? What are the cables? How's that machine powered? Are those red cables plugged into a tree? Like, you don't have to ask yourself any of those things because you're coming back to the skier. So a lot of times, and I've taught this last week, removing distractions that make people say, what's that? If you want people saying, what's that? Leave that stuff in. If you want people looking at your subject, take that stuff out. All right, so we'll save this, close it, come back. Hey, Carol, how you doing? Hey, David, how's it going? Let's go back, and here's our before, and here's our after. So just less stuff to look at so that people look at what's important. All right, next up, I've got these guys here. Now, you've heard me say this a million times. If the horizon is crooked, then it's going to be a distraction. But in this case, this was done on purpose. So I'm okay with doing things intentionally because they shot this at an angle on purpose. I don't like it, meaning that you've got a tower sticking up behind them, and that looks way off. But okay, that's their style. So what would I do in this photo? Let's hang on, hold on. I think I know what's going on. Let me show this in Finder. Yep, sorry about that. This image was not synced down to my computer. Let's sync it down to my computer, and then we can go from there. All right. So now let's go back to develop. There we go. And now let's go ahead and, again, it's not raw, so we're not going to pick a profile. So let's just hit auto. Yeah, okay, that toned it a little bit better. It made the sky less washed out. But I don't think the white balance is quite right yet. So let's adjust the white balance to not be so warm. There we go. All right, I'm okay with that. And next up, I might see what dehaze would do. I don't know how much of that sky is really there. It's really not there. Now I'm curious. I want to go in because it's just such a, you keep looking at that white part of the sky saying, what's going on with the sky? What's that tower? So it almost becomes a distraction. I could remove the tower easily, but I think the tower is probably significant to the location. So I'm going to leave it. Let's go ahead and edit this in Photoshop. What I might try, though, is going into Photoshop, and I've never tried this on an angle. I might try and see what sky replacement does. Wrong sky, but it is selecting it. Now let's get a good sky for this. Still, oh, see, the clouds are not rotated. Okay, so I can't have clouds because they're at the wrong angle. Good to know. I'd have to, and it does bring that in as a new layer, so I could rotate it after the fact. Yeah, the clouds are going to just be off. So let's try this. Let me go to my skies. Terry skies. Terry skies. There we go. Let's see. I think I have one. Let's see here. I think I have one that would fit. Yeah, that's giving me some clouds there, some overcast sky. There we go. That's what I want. Still needs to be rotated, but that's kind of what I was looking for. All right, so now I've got my sky in there. When I click OK, that's going to create a whole new sky replacement layer group for that. So that's what I meant by you still have control over it. I can turn it off, turn it on, and I can select it, and I can even free transform it. So now I can rotate that sky to kind of match the angle. Let's pull it back up. There we go. Scale it up a little bit. That's better. There. That's kind of what I was looking to do. All right, let's head back to Photoshop. Oh, we're still in Photoshop. Good. I was going to say, look at the blemishes here. The only one that stands out really is that one's kind of bugging me. Not sure what that is. Go back to him. That's a pimple, ingrown hair, whatever that is. Just remove that one. And then he's got a couple up here as well. Not going to take them all away. Just going to reduce the quantity. And whatever that is going on in his eye. I think his buddy looks okay. He's got a scratch or something up there. All right. And same thing, I would grab my sharpen tool, reduce the size, sharpen those eyes up a little bit. Same thing with this guy, same thing with that guy. All right. Okay. Let's go ahead and close this one, save it. Let's go back to where we were. And again, here's our before. Again, my only thing is I'm not a fan of the tower being sticking out of his head, but I think it's significant to the location. If it's not, I'd remove the tower. All right, next up. Here's a fun one. This is one that I wanted to do, and I only have a couple minutes left, so this will be perfect. This was submitted a while ago, and I kept missing it because there's really not a ton I need to do to it. Like, it's a portrait. It looks good. So whoever photographed this, great. Good job. It's a JPEG, so I can't do a ton. I'm just going to hit Auto. And let's see if I have any profile information in there. No profile information, so we're just going to leave it as is. But there's one thing I wanted to do to this photo that kind of is like a little trick. Because he's wearing a dark suit and you've got him on a dark gray background, I kind of wanted to play with that and just add a little bit more contrast to it. Second thing is, the only reason I would leave this much headroom in my frame is I'm selling it on stock and I'm going to leave copy space. But if you're trying to make a portrait out of this, then I would not leave that much headroom at the top of the image. So let's fix that first. Let's go to crop. Let's go to 4x5, 8x10. That will bring it down, and that'll let me bring him up. And that will make it a nice crop for Instagram because Instagram is in a 4x5, 8x10 aspect ratio for portraits. Okay, now that I've got that done, the next thing I would do to kind of bring out that contrast is I would go to my masking. I would select the subject. I would invert the mask so that the background selected, and now I can play with the background. I can adjust the hue of it, which is not going to do a ton because it's gray. Anything that's gray, white, or black, the hue's not going to really do much to it because there's no color, there's no hue in it to begin with to change. But if I go to color, then I can go ahead and change the color to whatever I want. So whatever I thought feels good, I think kind of a deep blue on this guy would look good because it kind of matches his handkerchief there. Yeah, something like that. So just play with it. So, because, you know, granted, you photograph this on a gray background, which makes it easy to select, but that doesn't mean it has to stay gray. So you can go ahead and do that. Would you leave a little bit more space above the head? Sure, you can do that. Let's go back to Lightroom. If you thought it was too tight, you can maybe go with something like that. I thought the same thing when I clicked OK. I just didn't go back and fix it. But yeah, something right around there would be better. So again, just going from that solid gray background to something with a little bit more color to it, and away we go. Now, I said that there was a photo that I'm not going to get a chance to really edit, but one thing I would just caution people to not do when you're going to take a picture of people standing. If you're going to go full length, then go full length. Their feet are important. So when you crop off feet like this, that's not good. And it's not easy to fix because I don't have their feet to put back in. So just keep that in mind in the photo itself. You got all this extra headroom, so all you had to do was tilt your camera down just a little bit more, make sure their feet are in the shot. Same thing with this one. I'll get to it next time. Don't crop off the hand. You had other space. All you do is move the camera over a little bit more and not crop off the hand. So just a couple shooting techniques for people that are doing this photo. So now I would recompose this to get rid of whatever this is at the bottom. If I had another shot with his hand, I'd actually absolutely Photoshop it back on to this shot if I wanted to keep it. But when you crop off things like that, they're important. They're part of the shot. They're part of the image. Don't do that. All right, with that said, we are out of time. So I'm going to say thank you for joining me once again for the Photography Masterclass. If you have a suggestion for next week's class, because I haven't picked a topic yet, go ahead and put it in the chat. I would love to see what you guys want to see next week. Other than that, stay tuned for the Adobe Daily Creative Challenge. Cheers, everybody.